I'm Robert Brown, and I'm the current president of the board of directors of the Palace Theater here in Marlin, Texas. We are currently preparing for our fall dinner theater that we're having November 4th, 5th, 11th, and 12th. And we still have tickets available for the 11th and 12th if you want to go to palacetheatermarlin.com. You can buy tickets online, or you can follow us on Facebook for more information on that. It's called A Tale of Two Bottoms, and it's actually part 2 of a trilogy that I'm trying to write. The first play was called Greater Fatty Bottoms, and we did it next door. And the story behind the play is that it's a small town somewhere between El Paso and San Antonio on Highway 10, just kind of backwoods little town, and that's Greater Fatty Bottoms. They have a sister city right next door called Lesser Fatty Bottoms, and they're rich people and snobs, and so you have those two towns together, and sort of they don't mesh very well. So that first play took place in the diner, and then this play actually takes place in the library of Greater Fatty Bottoms. And the idea came to me because I also serve on the library board of directors, and of course, as you know, with any nonprofit, you're always looking for ways to raise more money. So what I decided to do is write that into the story of the play. So we have Greater Fatty Bottoms, and we have the library, as you can see the set behind us, and they lose their major patron, so they have to come up with a way to raise more money. They decide to open an emergency care clinic in the library, and so that's what the story's about. If we were still in the smaller theater next door, we would have already been sold out all 4 nights weeks ago. So the good thing is that now that we've expanded, we don't sell out so fast. But we do still have more room for people to sit. So last night we had close to 80 people. Tonight we're almost sold out. Next Friday we've still got seats available, and then next Saturday we have a few seats available. So they are selling out fast. And again, I'll just reiterate that if they wanted to go onto the website at Palace Theater Marlin, there's a link to buy tickets, and also my phone number is out there, so if someone doesn't want to use a credit card online, they can always call me and reserve seats and pay at the door, so that's not a problem. But the seats are reserved. You can't just show up at the door and expect there to be a seat available, because we just have to reserve them online. The original owner, they called him Popsy, that was his nickname. There was a building at this location before it was the Palace. It was the Majestic Theater, and it was a completely wooden structure. And according to the biography that we have on Popsy, he immigrated to Marlin from Greece, I believe, and bought partnership into the Majestic Theater, and then eventually worked his way up to completely buying the business out, so he was the sole proprietor. And the building was sort of falling apart, and so they knocked that one down and then built the Palace. And again, it was finished in 1925. And vaudeville was still going on at the time, so that's why we have the stage. So it was originally built as a movie theater, but also has the stage because vaudeville was still big, and so they had live vaudeville shows. What I'm most familiar with are our volunteers that come in here that have been born and raised in Marlin, and they always give me stories about, back in the 50s and 60s, how this was the place to be. Both the Palace Theater and the Strand, which is on Live Oak, which is now Dr. Rose's dentist office. Both theaters were owned by the Chatmas. But the volunteers that help us here at the Palace give me stories about how, in high school and in elementary school, they would come here and basically spend a whole weekend, watching movies, and it was the thing to do, I guess, back in the day, because it was basically the only entertainment for kids back then. From what I'm told and what I've read in the little history that we have in our archives, the Palace was closed in the mid-70s, I believe, and then the building was given to the Marlin Presbyterian Church by the Chatmus family. The Presbyterian Church then formed a nonprofit group, which is the Palace Theater nonprofit group. So it was either and that's where, don't quote me on this, but it was either the Presbyterian Church that formed the nonprofit or somebody else formed the nonprofit, but the church gave the building then to the nonprofit group, and they've run it ever since the early 80s. So it was opened up again in the early 80s. They came in and started cleaning up and renovating it, and got it to a point to where they had fixed it up enough to be able to have community theater here. So they started off with, you know, live children's productions and community productions. They used to have some pretty big productions in here, like Wizard of Oz, Sound of Music, where there was literally 50, 60 people on stage at one time with a live local orchestra and that kind of thing.